James and his college roommate Derek graduated the same year, took the same jobs in the same city, and have earned remarkably similar salaries for the past 12 years. They catch up over dinner every few months. The conversation is comfortable, familiar, work, sports, weekend plans. What they do not discuss is money. If they did, the numbers would be startling. James has a net worth of $300,000. His retirement accounts are growing on autopilot. He carries no consumer debt. He owns his car outright. Derek, who has earned nearly the same total income across the same 12 years, has roughly $14,000 in savings, a car payment that will run for another 3 years, and a credit card balance that has hovered at different amounts but never reached zero. Same city, same income, completely different financial destinations. This video is about why, and more importantly, what specifically determines which outcome a person ends up with. The assumption baked into most financial stress is that the solution is more income. Earn more and the problems resolve. The data makes this assumption very difficult to defend. A significant percentage of Americans earning above $100,000 annually report living paycheck to paycheck. Among those earning above $200,000, a third describe themselves in the same situation. These are people earning 2 to 3 times the national median, people whose income would have seemed extraordinary to earlier generations, and they experience the same financial fragility as households earning a fraction of what they do. Income is not the variable. Behavior around income is the variable. And the behavioral differences between someone who builds wealth on a moderate salary and someone who remains financially stuck on a high one tend to cluster into 3 specific patterns. Mistake 1, lifestyle inflation that consumes every raise. The most reliable wealth destruction mechanism in the modern economy does not require any single catastrophic decision. It is a slow process of spending rising in step with income, so that the gap between what comes in and what gets saved stays flat, regardless of what either number becomes. Derek got a raise 3 years ago. Within 8 months, his apartment had upgraded, his car had upgraded, and his dining and entertainment spending had quietly risen to match the new income level. His savings rate at the end of that year was nearly identical to his savings rate before the raise. The income had grown, the lifestyle had immediately absorbed it. James got the raise the same year. He redirected the majority of it to his investment account before his spending had time to adjust. His lifestyle improved slightly, a few things he genuinely wanted that had been on hold, but the majority of the increase went into the gap between income and spending. That gap, maintained consistently, is where his $300,000 came from. The research on this is unambiguous. The most reliable predictor of long-term wealth accumulation is not income level. It is the savings rate relative to income. Someone saving 20% of $70,000 builds more wealth than someone saving 4% of $150,000. The math is straightforward once you accept that spending is a choice rather than a requirement. Mistake 2, debt that quietly cancels future wealth. The second major divergence between people on the same income is consumer debt, specifically the kind attached to things that lose value the moment they are purchased. Derek financed his current car at 7% over 5 years. The monthly payment is $480. Added to a credit card carrying a balance at 22% interest, he is directing close to $800 monthly towards servicing debt on things that are simultaneously declining in value. The credit card interest alone is compounding against him faster than most investment accounts compound for him. James has no consumer debt. The same $800 that Derek sends to lenders every month goes into James' investment account. At 8% average annual returns over the 12 years they have both been working, that monthly difference compounds into a number that explains most of the gap between their net worths. This is the arithmetic of debt that most people understand intellectually and very few internalize emotionally. Every dollar in interest paid to a lender is a dollar that will never compound in your favor. The car financed at 7% does not just cost the interest, it costs the investment returns that interest would have generated if redirected, multiplied across decades. Mistake 3. Spending without seeing it. The third pattern is the absence of tracking, the willingness to let money move without ever looking directly at where it goes. Research on consumer spending consistently finds that people dramatically underestimate their actual expenditures in almost every category. The brain is genuinely poor at accumulating small, frequent spending into accurate monthly totals. A coffee here, a delivery fee there, a subscription that has been running for longer than the service was used. These disappear individually into the background, while collectively consuming significant portions of discretionary income. Cashless payment makes this worse. Brain imaging research has found that card and digital payments activate reward circuits in ways that cash transactions do not, and reduce the psychological friction of spending. The result is that people who transact primarily without cash tend to spend more and remember less of what they spent it on. James tracks his spending monthly, not obsessively, a simple review of where the previous month's money went compared against where he intended it to go. The review consistently reveals small adjustments. More importantly, it keeps spending conscious rather than automatic. When spending is visible, it tends to be more intentional. When it is invisible, it tends to expand. Understanding the mistakes explains why Derek is where he is. Understanding the corresponding habits explains why James is where he is. The first habit is starting to invest early and not stopping. The mathematics of compound growth reward time more than amount. Someone who invests modestly starting at 25 and maintains it consistently will typically accumulate more than someone who invests substantially starting at 35, even if the latter contributes more total dollars. Every year of delay in the compounding timeline is a year of exponential growth permanently foregone. James started his retirement contributions at 24. Derek started at 31. That 7-year difference represents a significant portion of their current wealth gap. The second habit is paying yourself first, treating savings as a non-negotiable first allocation rather than the residual after all other spending. The conventional financial sequence is earn, spend, save what remains. The result of this sequence, for most people, is that nothing remains. Spending expands to fill whatever income is available. Reversing the sequence, automating savings before spending begins so that the budget adjusts to what is left, is the structural change that makes consistent saving possible without requiring continuous willpower. The third habit is directing money toward assets rather than liabilities. James has consistently prioritized putting money into things that grow or generate returns, index funds, a retirement account, eventually a rental property, over things that depreciate or cost money to maintain beyond their purchase price. Derek has consistently prioritized things that signal success, newer car, larger apartment, status purchases, over things that compound. The compounding of assets versus the depreciation of status purchases, extended across 12 years, produces a several $100,000 divergence. The habits above are behavioral. Underneath them is a psychological difference that determines whether the behaviors stick. People who successfully build wealth tend to operate with a quiet confidence that future resources can be created through consistent, disciplined action. They delay gratification because they genuinely believe the future version of themselves is worth investing in. They do not experience saving as deprivation. They experience it as progress. People who remain financially stuck despite adequate income often operate under more anxious assumptions about money, that it is scarce, that the future is uncertain, that enjoying it now is more reliable than saving it for later. These assumptions sometimes come from genuine hardship or from environments where financial insecurity was modeled. They are not character flaws, but they produce behavior that reinforces the very scarcity they are afraid of. James and Derek did not start in dramatically different places psychologically, but somewhere in their 20s, their relationship with money began to diverge in small, quiet ways that compounded over 12 years into entirely different financial realities. The conversation James and Derek have over dinner every few months covers a lot of ground. It does not cover money. If it did, the numbers would not reflect 12 years of different luck or different income. They would reflect 12 years of different decisions, small ones repeated consistently, compounding in opposite directions. Income is only one part of the equation. What you do with it is the part that actually determines where you end up.